This is Robert reporting with Republic Rising again, and I just wanted to shoot another video, obviously, on to go a bit broader on a subject that I just talked about, which was is feminism destroying entertainment? And I wanted to get more general in this discussion of what I think feminism, I guess, is, because I went, obviously, pretty specific within that video of defining how I think it's destroying entertainment, especially here in the West. But, yeah, so first I wanted to give a shout out to Adam, who left me a comment on that video, which I want to respond to. So thank you for watching my video, and obviously, respectfully, I disagree with what you said, but I'll break down why. And first, I think it's the assumption of what you said here is what many men fail to realize, is that feminism is our natural ally. Is that it benefits men as much as it benefits women by liberating both sexes from preconceived gender roles and expectations by dismantling patriarchy in everyone's best interests. While that may be their talking point, that may be how they define feminism, I'll give you that 100%. Yes, that is how feminism is, I guess, defined. That's not how they act. That's not what they do in real life. And it's not what they say even when you go to some of these feminist rallies, where they get pretty raunchy. I've been to a couple, and actually I've been to many leftist type rallies, and it is some of the ugliest stuff you can imagine. I really wish I did film more things back then, but I was one of those people where I didn't even really take pictures ever. I was there, I was seeing it, that was my camera. I could remember because I was there, so I never really pulled out a camera when I talked to people or did stuff like that, which I kind of regret, but I'm going to try to start doing that now that I'm going to be a little bit more active on this video stuff. But a little bit further, so while I agree with the definition, I disagree with their actions. They don't act that out right there. They believe it's a zero-sum game. Anywhere where men are doing better than them, it's because we in some way held them back or oppressed them and are not allowing them to do the same, when that's just not the truth. And the one fact that you did give me in this, which also I don't know if I agree with, but I've got no facts to back it up, so I'm just going to agree with you because you're talking about stuff in Sweden. Obviously, I don't live there. So I'll give you this one, although I'll take it with a grain of salt because I don't believe it. Here in Sweden, 2/3 of all women and 1/3 of all men under the age of 30 consider themselves feminists in all contexts. So, as a society, we're definitely heading in the right direction. And then you recommend that I should read a book entitled We Should All Be Feminists by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. I'm sure I did not pronounce that right. It's, I believe she was Nigerian is her name, and I can't pronounce most of the stuff, obviously, that comes out of some parts of Africa, obviously, because I'm English. But I looked into what that book is, because obviously I had not heard of that book before you mentioned it to me, so the only quick research that I did on it was, and I take it with a huge grain of salt, which is Wikipedia, because pretty much anyone can enter whatever they want to Wikipedia, and it be considered true when they leave it on there. So I take it with a huge grain of salt what this says. But according to what this says, the book is effectively, it's a book of anecdotes and analysis of what it means to be a feminist. She argues that feminist isn't an insult, but rather a label that should be embraced by all. And the book is, and here's one thing I find interesting, the book is critical of the way masculinity is constructed. That seems pretty dang vague, and maybe I need to read the book to understand what she means right there, but I have no idea what that means. Constructed in what way? I don't understand what they're trying to get at right there, and it's suggesting that society as a whole must be changed if we are to reach equality. So we got to change our monetary systems in order to reach equality with women? So we don't need to change it on a whole. These are people that just go over dramatic, alright? Now I'm sure Chimamanda, however you say her name, that she experienced some extreme hardships in Nigeria. I have no doubt about that. But here in the West, here in the Western world, we have essentially straight freedom for men and women, where we are exactly the same, where women have the exact same rights as men here in this country, especially. But what I did find hysterical was that in December 2015, the Swedish women's lobby and publisher Albert Bonnier I don't know how to pronounce that, revealed that the book is to be distributed to every 16-year-old high school student in Sweden with the intention that it will, quote, work as a stepping stone for a discussion about gender equality and feminism. The effort was supported by the UN Association of Sweden, Swedish Trade Union Confederation, the Order of the Teaspoon, Unison, and Gertrude Estrom, however you say that. I don't know what the tilde does in the accents above the letters would do the pronunciation. They, quote, hope that teachers will integrate We Should All Be Feminists into their teaching and will be distributing discussion guidelines to help. And that is abhorrent to me, that your government effectively is mandating that they are shoving this feminism crap down your throat in order to brainwash you guys. So I'm sorry in that aspect that they forced you to read it. Now, regardless, obviously, of how you interpret it, it's all up to you, but I would hate if any of my public school, when I did go to public school, where I was force-fed that type of feminism crap. That would be, I would stand up against that. That is just not right. But, anecdotal, let's get into some of the facts. Okay. So, one of the main facts that feminism love to talk about is the gender wage gap. And that men are effectively getting, depending on who you're talking to and all that, effectively 77 cents on the dollar is what women get paid for. Now, real quickly, on the surface, no, I might as well just get right into it. Okay, so let me show you one quick thing real quick that I wish more people would bring up, especially when talking about the gender wage gap here in America. It is illegal to do that on the federal level. And let me get my fancy ad overlay machine in here to show you what I mean. Equal Pay Act of 1963 here in the U.S. It was passed, amending the Fair Labor Standard Acts, abolishing the wage disparity based on sex. So starting in the 60s, it became illegal to pay a woman less just because she's a woman. That pretty much defeats your argument right there, women. Where you go out crying, we need something done, we need something done. Something already is done. You just don't take into account the sub-factors that you need to, which show the disparity in the gap, okay? And is there a gap that shows basically about a 25% difference? Yes. But understand what that gap is actually saying, because there is a difference. If you take even basic economics, you would know that wages and earnings are two completely different things. Wages are the amount of money you're getting paid per time or per transaction, whatever you're doing. Earnings is just how much you made. And they always go off of the earnings aspect, because what they also won't tell you is that women choose part-time jobs, for the most part, way more than men do. Men tend to work full-time jobs more than women, and part-time jobs pay less than full-time jobs. That's going to bring a disparity within there. Now, obviously, many more factors within it, and I'll get into a couple more here, but I wanted to start it off with that. The Equal Pay Act of 1963 became law June 10th, 1963. Since then, it has been illegal to pay a woman less than a man. And besides, if companies could get away with paying a woman 25 cents less on the dollar than a man, why don't corporations then have a majority woman staff so they can eat the profits even more? If these corporations are concerned about nothing but profit. See, they don't hold water when you start to break things down. And another great person to look into this, I should have pulled this up, is Thomas Sowell. He's an economist. And he was destroying this myth even back in the 60s and 70s and all that. And you can see many of his videos on YouTube. Highly recommend watching as much as you can on Thomas Sowell. That is a brilliant mind right there. And he postulates effectively, and I completely agree with him because the numbers back it up, that when you take into account, and he uses you got to listen to the terminology, obviously, is unmarried women, or is it unmarried or childless. I think it was unmarried women and married women. And you need to separate women even within those categories, because job choices and lifestyles are obviously drastically different between those type of two individuals. And he brilliantly lays that out and destroys this one old lady. I don't remember who she was, but she kept just trying to get him to say that there was some kind of disparity. And when you look at it factually, there is no discrepancy. And the articles that I'm going to pull up, I specifically chose them because they are all written by either admitted feminists or obviously women themselves. So you can't say that I'm just coming at this from a biased male's perspective. And one of the few feminists who I'd probably actually be able to get along with is Christina Hoff Sommers. Now, notice when I say that, a handful of you feminists are going, well, she's not a real feminist, she's not part of the group and all that, and that just shows you that feminists really aren't for the equality of all women. It's just all women who agree within what they view their term of feminism is. And Christina Hoff Sommers, first I want to go to Karen Agnes Lips. Hope I said that right. This is an article from Forbes, written in 2016, and here's my awesome ad overlay so you can see it. Bam! Don't buy into the gender pay gap myth. There it is. There's the date. It's on Forbes.com. Okay, and the one point I wanted to pull up in this is obviously when she's there, she asks a bunch of Harvard women if they think they're going to get paid 78 cents on the dollar. The majority of them all raise their hands. And these are the smartest of the smart. And they think that they're going to get paid 20 plus cents less than the man. But where was the part? Okay. And here's some of the people who come out and perpetuate this myth. And it's horrible. Because one is right there. The White House Equal Pay website reports that on average women earn just 78 cents on the dollar. It's a lie. American Association University Women pretty much said the same thing. National Organization of Women said the same thing. It was right here. This is huge. But the White House and others who promote the myth are manipulating statistics in a way to convince women that they are victims of systemic societal discrimination and therefore, and this is the important part, stand to benefit from further government action. And that's the big part of her article that I wanted to pull out right there, because it's more of this government manipulation of reality, so that way they pull you away from your individualism of, I can do this myself, I don't need help, hard work will get me through, to the, oh, if something's wrong in my life, the state needs to come in and fix this. There needs to be a law to fix this. That is not what freedom is. And that is this type of thing that leftists will do. They try to make everything the answer is further government action. This new law needs to be imposed. This regulation needs to be brought in. This new tax needs to be applied. No, that is not what this country is about. That is horrible. I hate that. And obviously this is written by a woman, so you can't say I'm being too biased on that aspect. And that's a decent article in the Forbes, but it didn't get into the details I wanted, which Christina Hoff Sommers gets into on a Huffington Post article. So, wage gap myth exposed by feminists. Christina Hoff Sommers, HuffPo, all that. Okay. And I gotta make this easier for me to search. I'm just gonna scroll down and read the part I wanted to. Alright, let's see if I can get to it real quick, because it was a bunch of numbers. Okay. So, it says, in fact, says the National Women's Law Center, authoritative studies show that even when all relevant career and family attributes are taken into account, there is still a significant unexplained gap in men's and women's earnings. And that's what the National Women's Law Center says. And she goes on to say this. Not quite. What the 2009 Labor Department study showed was that when the proper controls are in place, the unexplained, quote, adjusted wage gap is somewhere between 4.8 and 7 cents. The new AAUW study is consistent with these findings, but isn't the unexplained gap, albeit far from less than the endlessly publicized 23 cents still a serious injustice? Shouldn't we look for ways to compel employers to pay women the extra 5 to 7 cents? But see, if I try to read too fast, I mess this up. Not before we figure out the cause. The AAUW notes that part of the new 6.6 cents wage gap may be owed to the women's supposedly inferior negotiating skills, not unscrupulous employers. And that actually is a big point that a handful of people will bring up too. Men will ask for and fight for a raise way more than women. Now that's not to say that they don't deserve it or anything, is women are more passive. It's the psychological makeup of women is they're more agreeable. They want to be in agreement with people more often. And men are better at it, or fine with confrontation. We can handle confrontation better, which effectively is what a negotiation is two people on opposite sides and you're trying to find the right piece to slip together, and there's friction and all that stuff, and men are just better at that than women. It's a fact. Furthermore, the AAUW 6.6 cents includes some large legitimate wage differences masked by overbroad occupational categories. And that's another huge point right there, and it'll go further. For example, its researchers count, quote, social science as one college major, and report that along with such majors, women earned only 83% of what men earned. Bam! You're like, we got it. Women are making 17 cents less on the dollar than what they're doing for social sciences. And it sounds unfair until you consider the fact that social sciences includes both economics and sociology majors. Alright? Now what's the difference between those? Economics majors, which are majority, 66% male, so a majority male profession, have a median income of $70,000. As for sociology majors, which are 68% female, mostly female working there, it's a $40,000 job. Alright, you can see how now suddenly earnings are different. They can work the same exact hours all the way through the year. The men are going to make more. Why? Because their job pays more. Economist Diana Furchtgott-Roth of the Manhattan Institute has pointed to similar incongruities. The AAUW study classifies jobs as diverse as librarian, lawyer, professional athlete, and media occupations under a single rubric, other white collar. And I mean, you think a professional athlete is going to make anywhere near the same as a librarian? Come on. Come on. And she goes on to say, so the AAUW report compares the pay of male lawyers with that of female librarians, of male athletes, of female communication assistants. That's not a comparison between people who do the same work. With more realistic categories and definitions, the remaining 6.6 gap was certainly narrowed to more than just a few cents, and even some major economists would say it pretty much evaporates. It's non-existent. It's not there. Men and women choose different jobs. That is why they get paid differently. Point blank. Alright. So that was that one. Let's see what else I wanted to get into this one. Okay, and this one was, let's see. This one was also another one written by Christina Hoff Sommers. And she's someone who even politically I disagree with on a whole bunch of stuff. So don't think that I'm just cherry picking people that I agree with. There's not much I agree with Christina Hoff Sommers on, but she is what I would call, in most cases, the factual feminist, as she kind of defines herself. But again, here's her list real quick. Add overlay. 6 myths that will not die. Come on, focus. It's not focused. There we go. Christina Hoff Sommers, 2016, blah, blah, blah. And this one was at Time Magazine, time.com. Okay. So, running out of time. Got to make this quick. And this one is, I didn't hear this one too much recently, or a lot, but it has come up a couple times. That feminists say that women are half the world's population, working 2/3 of the world's working hours, receiving 10% of the world's income, owning less than 1% of the world's property. And that's just not true. A bunch of people have looked into it, and that's even something that was put out by World Bank, Oxfam, and the UN. But Anne-Marie Goethes repudiated the claim of Sussex University, said the figure was made up by someone working at the UN because it seemed to her to represent the scale of gender-based inequality at the time. There's no evidence that it was ever accurate, and it's certainly not today. And goes on real quick to say that precise figures don't exist, but no serious economist believes that women earn only 10% of the world's income or own only 1% of the property. As one critic noted in The Atlantic, U.S. women alone earn 5.4% of the world's income today. Moreover, African countries where women have made far less progress than their Western and Asian counterparts. Yale economist Cheryl Doss found female land ownership ranged from 11% in Senegal to 54% in Rwanda and Burundi, I think. Doss warns that using unsubstantiated statistics for advocacy is counterproductive, and yeah, 100% agree. That is a terrible myth. I don't know how that one got purported. Thankfully, I haven't heard that one much, but these others I have. And this is a big one. Between 100,000 and 300,000 girls are pressed into sexual slavery each year in the United States. And Demi Moore and Ashton Kutcher, that was one of their big presses and all that. And, well, people have looked into that, and let's see, pulling it up quick. 3 reporters from the Village Voice questioned Estes on the number of children who are abducted and pressed into sexual slavery each year. He replied, "We're talking about a few hundred people." Quote, "And this number is likely to include lots of boys. According to a 2008 census of the underage prostitutes in New York City, nearly half turned out to be male. A few hundred is still far too many, obviously, but nowhere near the numbers they're talking about of hundreds of thousands a year." But on top of that, I'm happy having, obviously, Donald Trump as president because of how quickly he is rounding up these pedophiles in this country and around the world. It is monstrously awesome. Keep it going. Destroy this pedophile ring that has been running this globalist system for a while. Hurry up, Robert. In the United States, 22% to 35% of women who visit the hospital emergency rooms do so because of domestic violence. And not true. Justice Department and the CDC are not referring to the 40 million women who annually visit the emergency rooms, but to women, numbering of about 550,000 annually, who come into emergency rooms for, quote, violence-related injuries. Of these, approximately 37% were attacked by intimates. So, it is not a case that 22 to 35% of women who visit emergency rooms are there for domestic violence. The correct figure is actually less than half of 1%. And one thing they won't tell you about this domestic violence issue, too, especially happening now in the West and down in Australia here, it's getting pretty bad down there, too. But it is no longer a landslide of, like, just men beating wives and all that stuff. The numbers are actually starting to tip now to where it's about 50-50 to where women are actually starting to instigate and be in a lot of the violent activity that's happening in the house because women know they can get violent and it won't be as serious as opposed to when a man gets violent, we can do serious damage. So the women kind of have that little liberty of, I know I can slap, I can hit this guy, that's culturally accepted, they ain't going to do anything to me. And it's getting ridiculous of this domestic violence crap that they just try to pin on only men. 1 in 5 in college will be sexually assaulted, and the estimated 19% sexual assault rate among college women is based on a survey at 2 large 4-year universities, which might not accurately reflect our nation's college overall. In addition, the survey had a large non-response rate, with the clear possibility of those that had been victimized were more apt to have completed the questionnaire, resulting in an inflated prevalence figure. Fox and Moran also point out that the study used an overly broad definition of sexual assault. Respondents were counted as sexual assault victims if they had been subject to, quote, attempted forced kissing or engaged in intimate encounters while intoxicated. Defenders of the 1 in 5 figures will reply that the finding has been replicated by other studies, but these studies suffer from some or all of the same flaws. Campus sexual assault is a serious problem and will not be solved by statistical hijinks. Completely agree. And it's 77 cents on the dollar. We already did that one, obviously. So, I mean, a lot of the main points that this feminism tried to put out there saying that, and yeah, here is another one, but I won't go into it fully and all that, and this is U.S. News. The rape epidemic doesn't actually exist. Statistics don't support the contention that rape culture is pervasive. Written by a woman. There's the date and the time. There's the website. Check it out yourself. These are all just lies, because what feminism has become now is a man-hating organization that just wants to destroy what they view as the patriarchy, and there's not even really a patriarchy anymore. I mean, Hillary Clinton was almost damn president of the United States if it wasn't for the fact that she was such a lying, maniacal, just... Oh God, I don't even want to use half the words I want to use to describe that woman. She just needs to be in prison. She's just an untrustworthy liar. That's why she didn't get voted for. I mean, there are so many other better women who could have ran that had a chance to win, but no. So, my stance on feminism right now is it's a cancer. The early ages of feminism I agreed with more, but this new age feminism is a joke. It needs to stop, and it's unsubstantiated in pretty much all of their claims. So, if you think my facts were wrong, let me know. I pretty much showed you all my sources and where the facts are coming from. Hit me up in the comments. What do you think? Do you think feminism is a cancer, or do you think feminism is something that more men need to get in line with and become soy boys behind these women and let them start running society? Let me know what you think. Hit me up in the comments. Once again, you hit me up with facts, I will respond. I'll talk to you. It's even if you completely disagree with me, that is 100% fine. You guys have yourselves a good one. This is Robert reporting for Republic Rising. Conservatism is the new counterculture. Yeah. Peace.